'cause it meant something. Let it go. For a while. But you watch it striving, and to see if it's surviving. Make a pact, let it lie. More than half awake, cold only to say. Apart from feeling, set adrift on meaning. Let it go. For a while. But you won't see it. You're getting hard of hearing. Make a pact, call it dying. More than half awake, cold only to say. Not enough to stay. If you won't face the you call it dying. Call it dying. That's Half Awake. Please share the video if you like what's going on. I'm going to do one little piece here, and then we're going to bring on the special guest for today. Most weeks we've got a guest. Just to keep things interesting, keeping me honest, so to speak. Lovely to see so many folks on here from all over the place. A bit of California, a bit of, what do we see? Some Edmonton, some Hanover. Some Taiwan. Get your requests in there if you want. I'm going to play an old one called Tendrils, and this is kind of specially for our guest because I know that he likes it. It's just for you, mystery guest. Almost. Old rages blocking all the holes, hide inside walls, decided the goal. Calm silence, don't pick apart its source. make it up, but just put it aside. Don't find us waking upside down. Find your sense of hold it, you'd watch it unfold. Phrase tendrils creeping for a home, the steely grey glow of your eyes. But by night I'm silenced and still. Can you make yourself feel unkind? When you cry out, or when you see that we all have come freely alone. No brightness but misinterpret words, deflect us from the sight of you, drenched and afraid. Fight in the sourness that pulls around the brain. It's an offering, an offering, an offering again. Sealed inside each verse, up above my words, you've a sense, I'm sure, that's as true as any. For the times I had tried but didn't make the connections, and I'm left to feel. If I was you, I'd lie. 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 Oh, judgment, picking apart your eyes, fooled by the scope, and pull his rope. Oh, judgment picks apart your eyes. We barely are truthful to us. That's Tendrils. So, I am going to bring in our very special guest. He's somebody that I've known for a good few years now. He is a wonderful Ottawa-based musician. I think we might actually get into the story of how we originally met. Yes, we will get into that. I'm going to bring in my good friend, Mr. Nathanael Larochette from Ottawa, Ontario. Nathanael, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for playing Tendrils.
Yeah, just for you and other people as well, I guess. Other people can have it. So Nathanael has a project called Musk Ox, and well, you have lots of projects. You're a very creative fella, the Musk Ox was the initial project that I got to know you through, and it's this beautiful, incredible instrumental kind of neo folk. Is that the label that you like to put on it? I feel like that's how you described it to me many years ago.
I go with chamber folk.
Chamber folk.
I find that because it's sort of like chamber instruments, but kind of folk aesthetic, I guess. Mm-hmm. Folk song structure. So chamber folk feels good, but
it's so funny because I feel like I've been having this conversation a bit recently, but like, why am I asking you what kind of music that you play when you're just gonna play it? Like, I feel like, we needed labels for describing music when we were buying music magazines, and people had to like literally describe what the music sounded like to people, yeah. and it's maybe a little bit redundant in this particular situation where you can just play for us. I did actually once have somebody come up to me after a show and was like, "How would you describe your music?" And I was just like, "What? You just heard it. You don't need a name for it. It's okay." Anyway, so you're in Ottawa.
I am in Ottawa,
and you've been there for a long time. But well, I mean, I think you were going to kind of get onto the story of our meeting later on, so I won't spoil that. But what have you been up to during this whole lockdown time that we've had?
I've been I've been fortunate in the sense that I didn't have any kind of big plans. Sort of when everything hit, um, I was supposed to go to London, Ontario, to mix the new Musk album with my little brother Simon Larochette at his studio, the Sugar Shack, and that was at the end of March. And I remember me and the cellist and muskox Raphael Weinroth Brown. We were sort of like at that point it was still there were a lot of questions, so we were like, do we go down there and do it? And then we ended up deciding not to, and we ended up mixing it through Google Hangout. and yeah,
Amazing.
which was really an experiment, but it ended up working out. My brother had the audio feed from his studio going through this program called Source Player Live, and so we would log on to the feed, and then we'd be able to listen with a slight delay, and
Wow.
and then with the little videos and see each other, and we could see he would screen share, so we could see what was going on, and it. Yeah, I think in the end, had it been a regular spring, we probably wouldn't have had spent as much time mixing it. So I think the album kind of benefited from us having time to sort of dive into it, and yeah.
Fantastic. And for like you mentioned your brother's studio. We've known each other for about 10 years, but I actually recorded there about 5 years ago without realizing initially that you guys were brothers, and it was a pretty sweet thing when we realized. I think it was Go On. It was the second album, so like back in 2015. So yeah, if anyone needs a studio in London, Ontario, we recommend the Sugar Shack.
Or if you're in Toronto and want to make the trip, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, if you want to get out of the city,
go
and record with a nice person in a nice place, then you get at least 2 votes for that.
Yeah.
But what did you want to play for us today?
So I'm going to play 3 pieces. I decided to kind of mix it up a little bit. So this first piece is a bit of an amalgamation. So the opening kind of strums that I like to do, I found this progression that I really liked, and I found that when I was doing concerts, it was a good thing to start with because I'm usually pretty nervous. So it helps me to sort of get the nerves out. And that's going to be on my next solo record. And then the next piece I'm playing is actually a solo guitar piece that I wrote for a collaborative album I did with my girlfriend, who's an incredible poet, and her name's Conyer Clayton. And we did an album 2 years ago in 2018, and this was a piece I wrote for it's basically an intro to the whole album, and the album's called If the River Stood Still, and it's an incredibly beautiful collaboration with classical guitar and poetry and nature sounds. And so, yeah, I found that often I like to start off with this piece. It's called Undergrowth, and it's dedicated to anyone watching out in Halifax. I grew up in Nova Scotia and spent my teen years in Halifax. And actually, when I was a teenager, I wrote for this heavy metal website based out of New Brunswick called the Undergrowth. And then my girlfriend Connie, she was living in Halifax before she came to Ottawa, and we met. And so there's an Ottawa connection, and the title just kind of fit. So beautiful. Yeah, that's going to be the piece I'm going to start with.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was really beautiful. That's Mr.
Thank you.
Nathanael Larochette, People of the World. That was so magic and special. Thank you. I was wondering if you would like to tell us a little bit about your writing process. I always find it fascinating to sort of like get in a little bit to how people go about creating the work that they create. Could you describe a little bit like how you write?
Yeah. Usually, I think a lot of it just starts with playing. I'll kind of have an idea, and sometimes I find that I'll have it. Sometimes it's you have an idea, and you don't think it's very much, but it just won't leave you alone. So you'll be like, oh, that's kind of neat, and then like a year later, you're like, oh, I'm still playing this. Like I probably should do something with it. Like those strummed chords. Originally, those were just chords that I was like, oh, those are nice, and I'll start shows with it or whatever. And I was like, one day I'll do something with it. And then eventually I decided like I always play it this way and it always feels good. So I think this is what it's supposed to be like. And so a lot of it comes from playing, but I also do a lot of composing on the computer. I have like a program where I can put in guitar notation and guitar tab. And I find that that's also really helpful because, if you're writing on the guitar and then you have a riff and you're like, okay, I like this riff. It's hard the muscle memory that it takes to completely change one part of it and keep track of what you're doing is very difficult. So I find sometimes if I have a few ideas that I can just punch them into the computer and then just play them back. And then I can also just copy paste and arrange and sort of get kind of a bird's eye view on the notes that I'm playing. And so sometimes I'll look at a whole guitar riff and I'll think like, oh, I keep repeating this note. What if I just change it every second time? And then I listen back to it. And so there have been pieces that I've written entirely on the computer and then I have to figure out on the guitar. So usually it starts with just playing and then just kind of exploring different kind of things. I think like most musicians, it's kind of like what feels good. And I think sometimes what we think we should be doing sort of gets in the way. And when you can kind of just get past that and just recognize like, oh, this feels really good, like that's probably enough of a sign that you should kind of explore that idea and see what you can develop from it, I guess.
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I did want to make a note for the viewers. Each week the guest we take donations on the show, and each week the guest gets 50%. So there's a link in the video description. This whole thing is entirely listener supported. So we appreciate those donations. And I got a little note on there appreciating your Nova Scotia shout out. We got a viewer in Jacqueline in Cole Harbour who was expressing her appreciation.
Yeah, I've been in Ottawa for 15 years now, and but it's like the more time I spend away from Nova Scotia, the more I kind of realize how much it's sort of like ingrained in my being, that part of the world. So yeah.
Cool. Did you want to play as another piece?
Sure. So this is a piece from my project Muskox. The project started as a solo album that I created, and then it's developed now into a trio featuring an incredible cellist, Raphael Weinroth Brown, and an incredible violinist, Evan Runge, who I also play in an instrumental band called The Night Watch with. And Muskox is a strange project because it really kind of has a life of its own, I find, and it just kind of unfolds in interesting and unexpected ways. And so this piece I'm going to play is off of the first album, which is the one that I gave you when I met you back in 2010.
That
I
sounds
think
about
it
right.
was.
Happy 10th anniversary, Nathaniel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you want to tell? Do
Definitely.
you want to tell the listeners and viewers around the world about that meeting? Your
Yeah,
recollection
well,
of it?
yeah, well, the way I remember it is we had done a performance in Ottawa for this thing called Canteen Music Series, and so they would film you playing a live set and then put it online. And I remember watching. I remember you had done it before we had because I was looking at the other artists, and I remember I was like, oh, like Paper Beat Scissors, who's that? And I really liked your music. And then I was on a ferry to Victoria, and I was just sitting there, and then I see you with a guitar, and I was like, I think that's the guy from Paper Beat Scissors. And so I think I just approached you and said, are you Paper Beat Scissors? And you're like, yes, I am. And you're like, oh, I'm playing a show in Victoria. And I remember going to Victoria and going to the venue with you and helping you package up some CDs and then watching your set
Putting
and
you to use.
just being blown away and just being a fan ever since. And then we've had you in Ottawa a bunch of times, and it's just, but yeah, I just remember that moment. I was like, he has a very recognizable face.
The one and only time in my life that I've been recognized out in the real world. And for those not in Canada who are not familiar with Canadian geography, I should say I was living in Halifax at this point, and the Victoria is literally the opposite side of the country, so thousands of miles away. So it was quite something to be very far away from home and somebody be like, are you Paper Beat Scissors?
Yeah.
But yeah, and sort of like following on from that, I remember that trip, and you gave me your CD at the time. And I think the first time I actually got to listen to it was because I'm just on tour. I don't have a CD player. I was driving through. I think I was at this point. I was doing a tour where I was like literally taking the bus and the train across the country, which I cannot recommend. Cannot recommend highly enough. Cannot recommend. It's an exhausting thing to do. Many overnight bus rides, which are not fun. And but I remember like arriving after some overnight bus ride in a town called what was it called? Kimberley, which is in the mountains. It's in the Rocky Mountains. Sort of in the foothills a little bit, and getting picked up at the station by my friend. And she drove me up to these hot springs, and I think on the way up to the hot springs, like a wolf ran across the road. But like, I think on the way back from the hot springs, I was just like completely exhausted. So like, just like wound down the seat, so it was like literally like touching the back seat, and like kind of like drifted off, and like was like looking out the window as the mountains were going by, and we had your CD on, and I just remember like that magic thing. I don't know if you've had that experience. I feel like most people can relate to this a little bit, where you're like falling asleep and waking up and there's music on, and your mind is just in this kind of like semi-conscious state, and it can be so affecting and powerful. And I had that with that. Like, and I think particularly it's like sort of like the bonus track on that first CD. Was it Lullaby for Ghosts? Yeah. Like just being like, oh my god, this is amazing. So there's a link to that in the video description for anyone who wants to listen.
And that's the one that I actually wanted to play. So yeah.
Perfect segue.
So this is a bonus track because on the first album, and you had mentioned that it's Remembrance Day, and so I wanted to dedicate this song to my grandfather who passed away 2 years ago, and my family's originally from France, and he was actually in the French Resistance as a teenager.
Oh wow!
And crazy stories about being recruited by the Resistance and doing all these kind of covert operations at like. I think he was maybe 16 or 17, getting captured, escaping. When he passed away, he was 93, and he just lived an incredible life and survived so much. And so, I just want to dedicate this to him. His name was Gabriel Vernier, and he was badass. So I'm just gonna tune a little. Thank you.
Still very special. So what have you got planned the next little bit? I feel like as long as I've known you, you've always had a whole bunch of different creative projects going on. So like, what's next for you in the next weeks and months?
Yeah. Right now, we just mastered the new Muskox album, and so the last one came out in 2014. So it's been a little while. So basically, that one's getting mastered, and we're just working on the artwork right now. So that one should be released in the spring. So I'm kind of just finalizing that. I just recorded a new solo instrumental guitar album. That one is going to be actually released with a book, and it was composed with the idea of creating short pieces that people who want to learn how to fingerpick would be able to sort of learn and enjoy, hopefully.
Sort of etudes,
because
sort of
for me, when it comes to music, like, there's technique obviously, and there's theory, but when you learn a song, to me, that's when you're like, whoa, I know a song. And then if there's a guitar lying around and then someone's like, play a song, you're like, I know a song. And so I wanted to compose a bunch of songs that, were varying levels of difficulty, but we're all around 2.5 to 3 minutes long, which was a really fun challenge, because the work that I do with Muskox and the Night Watch, it's a lot of really, really epic arrangements and 14-minute songs and 17-minute songs and this kind of thing. And so it was nice to really challenge myself to see what I could get out of just a few simple pieces, because when I learned classical guitar, I always found that those beginner pieces were some of my favorite. Right, when you really strip down the music to the bare essence, right? And so to me, it's like the challenge is like, what's the greatest emotional resonance you can pack into the fewest amount of notes?
Oh yeah.
And so that album I just recorded, and I'm just kind of finishing it up, and should be releasing that next year with the book sometime probably in the fall or in the early summer. So you know how it is with music. It's like you spend years writing, and it kind of feels like everything's sort of stagnant. Then all of a sudden things are moving forward, but you have to plan like 6 months to 12 months in advance. So but that's just part of it. But those are kind of the main things. And then with the Night Watch, we released an album a year ago, and then we're just about to release a vinyl version of that. So just something to do.
a lot of things happening. So if people want to find your stuff, I mean, I've put a link to the Muskox thing in your description, but you have things out under your own name, Muskox, Night Watch, and the album with your partner, that's just under your...
That's under Conyer Clayton, Conyer Clayton. I can post a link in the chat. And she's also an incredible poet who just published a book that's amazing. So I can share some of that in the chat once we're
fantastic. Yeah, and you're gonna give us one more little piece.
Yeah. So this piece is. I always find that with each album I create, there's always, and maybe you find this, there's always a seed for the next album in each album that I make. Right. So. For my first solo album, it was called Earth and Sky, and it was actually recorded on the south shore of Nova Scotia, near New Ross. My dad had a cottage there, and so me and my little brother recorded an album in the cottage before he sold it. And so all the photography, the cover is actually a picture of Blomidon, because I grew up in Wolfville. And so that album is a mix of solo guitar pieces and then sort of some ambient post-rock. And so this is the last piece on that album, and it's a 3-minute piece, whereas the other ones were a lot longer. So this one kind of directed me towards doing some shorter pieces, and so this one's called Slumber.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So that's Nathanael Larochette, everybody. He's gonna pop into the chat. So if anybody has any questions, you can fire away at him there. And I hope I'll be seeing you in real life somewhere sometime soon. It's a real pleasure to have you. That was magnificent. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored and always a big fan.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. So hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's Nathanael Larochette, everybody. I think most of his stuff is out under the name Musk, but there are, he's going to pop up into the chat so you can ask him for everything that you need. I'm going to play an oldie, one that I would have been playing back when I first met Nathanael. This is for Abby, who's just re-arrived here down in New Jersey. It's called Folds. Climb up this fleshy frame, hands and feet are fixed, stretching up above me. This man-made shoulder wide, ladders broken sides. I lost my step, cushioning my back, the sands that came to greet me. The fallen ranked and filed, away with all the wherewithal. And when you touch the sun, remember what it's for. The heat pulling sweat from your pores. See it in their eyes and shoulders, cushioning your lives in folders. 'Cause even if you pushed it forward, we've got it wrong. Still is a shineless night, weightless in the folds of wings and silent feathers, but still we'll push over as breathless as the day we came. And when you touch the sun, remember what it's for. The heat pulling sweat from your pores. It's it in their eyes and shoulders, cushioning your lives in folders. 'Cause even if you pushed it forward, we've got it wrong. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? I can talk, I promise. For those who don't regularly tune in, maybe some folks who tuned in to catch Nathanael stuff, I do this every week with a different guest, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so whatever this hour is right now. So yeah, please do tune in anytime. I'll be here, I promise. Jose is good and busy. I'm pretty well, thank you. It's been a bit weird. Last week we had some technical issues, and my whole week was off after that. Because yeah, like the internet just basically went down here, and I thought there was some other issue going on, and it took a long time to actually get it fixed. And I was amazed. Like, thank you so much to all the people who actually stuck around last week. People waited for like 45 minutes for the second part of the stream, so it's much appreciated. I'm gonna play a piece called Shapes. But yeah, all to say my mental health is a lot better this week for having been able to do this. This song is called Shapes, and it's about tying yourself up in knots and then laying the blame for that at someone else's door. And it's on the new album. Right, do we have everything? That's there. That piano is there. Oh, I need to put that little camera on. This is where it all gets a little bit more technically involved. J'apologize. That's French for I apologize. You pull me into shapes that I can't get out of. I can't get out of. You pull me into shapes that I can't get out of. I can't get out of. Less is more than you wanted to be. Following down, there's an end to the stream. Held aloft in the dying of spring. How to pretend that you don't mean a thing. You pull me into shapes that I can't get out of. I can't get out of. You pull me into shapes that I can't get out of, that I can't get out of. Stretched in clothes, nothing stays without stain. Wait for the pull to get out into the rain. that I can't get out of. Shapes. I did the whole thing with the reverb off and I didn't even notice. Crazy. Anna's Fancy Shapes. I'm actually going to play a song for Anna, for my sister here. It's a Radiohead song. Let's see if I can make it work. Many chords. It's called Like Spinning Plates. Yeah, I think that's right. And I do take requests, so always shoot them in there. I have like 2 more planned for this. But yeah, there might be room for a request. And if I can't do it this time, I will definitely look at it for next time. I do have a very long list of things that people have requested, and I'm always working at them, I promise, even if it seems like I'm not. Just like this one that was requested in the summer sometime. While you make pretty speeches, I'm being cut to shreds. You feed me to the lions and and this just feels like spinning plates. I'm living in Glencoe land, and this just feels like spinning plates. Our bodies floating down the muddy river. So, that was Spinning Plates. I actually missed Jacqueline's comment. Abby says that she 125% agrees with Jacqueline. Oh, you said that I did justice to a Radiohead cover. So kind. It's a difficult challenge. So that's a live version of that piece. There's a version. There's 2 little factoids about that song for any Radiohead fans out there. One thing is that it's actually the same chord sequence, but is the vocal reversed? The same chord sequence as I Will. They were kind of like messed up versions of each other. And the other thing is, if you listen to the live version of that one where Tommy York's playing the piano, it's not all like that one. You can hear a guy at the start who like recognizes what the song is, and it's like, "Woo, spinning plates!" And I like that. I'm gonna play a song for. Where's my tuner gone? Sometimes clip-on tuners de-clip. Oh, KLK knows what's up because that's what I'm actually gonna play. I'm gonna play not a Neil Finn song, but a Crowded House song. So this is for my Uncle Peter and Auntie Leslie, who I believe they were definitely watching a while ago, and I hope they're still watching. But a long time ago, I borrowed a couple of Crowded House CDs from my Uncle Peter, and they were pretty significant for me. So thank you for that, Uncle Peter. And this particular track goes out to somebody less favored, who lost his job this week, and I'm very happy about it. Probably not the only one. I have pretty much zero excitement or expectation for Joe Biden, but it's still definitely a massive relief to see the end of Trump for me personally. And those who know will know this is called 4 Seasons in One Day. Four seasons in one day, lying in the depths of your imagination, worlds above and worlds below. The sun shines on the black clouds hanging over the domain. Even when you're feeling warm, the temperature could drop away. Like 4 seasons in one day, smiling as the shit comes down. Pardon me. It doesn't pay to make projections, sleeping on an unmade bed, finding out wherever there is comfort there is pain. Only one step away. Like 4 seasons in one day, blood dries up like rain, like rain, fills my cup. Like 4 seasons in one day. Doesn't pay to make predictions, sleeping on an unmade bed, finding out wherever there is comfort there is pain. Only one step away. Like 4 seasons in one day, blood dries up like rain, like rain, fills my cup. Like 4 seasons in one day. Anna is getting very philosophical in the chat here. Can a bed be classed as made if you're sleeping in it? Very good point. That is some meta stuff right there. So I imagine most of you know this news story, but for those who don't, the Trump campaign announced that they were doing a press conference at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia, and the Four Seasons Hotel shortly afterwards tweeted that the press conference wasn't happening there, but at the Four Seasons Landscaping Company, which is just some some landscaping company on a strip mall on the outskirts of town between a sex shop and a crematorium, and it was just the most wonderful, unintentional political satire that there ever was. So thank you for leaving us with that. If you do leave us, Mr. Trump, which you should get a flippin' move on with. I'm going to do 2 more. One of those can be a request if somebody gets it in time. I'm going to do one called All We Know, about not knowing anything, and maybe the first step to getting anywhere in life being realizing that you don't know anything. So maybe Trump is great. Oh no, I don't know anymore. Almost there.
All we know is, all we know is, all we know is, all we know is wrong. Got a head without words. Flag from the start. It's not as much as you like, but it's more than enough. Thank you very much. Seed has been raised, before it has crumbled. You can leave when you like. The holes in the doors haven't changed. You're fine, only fighting the measly sense. Your pride in these misleading notions.
all we know. Okay, I saw a request in there for Don't Mind, which requires the Spanish guitar, which is all the way over there. So if you'll excuse me for a moment. Thank you so much to everyone for all the kind words. It's so, that's spicy with the reverb. It is such a pleasure to get to play for you every week. And yeah, like I do this 3 p.m. every week, Montreal time. The episodes stay archived for a while, so if you miss it live, you can go and watch the video at the same link on the YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. As I said before, we take donations every week. And 50% of those go to the guest. The link is in the text, and there's like an interact link for Canadian people, PayPal. Working on getting the credit card sorted one of these days. But yeah, I'm gonna finish up with Don't Mind for Abby in New Jersey. We need some crickets for all this nonsense. Keep you all distracted, make you not even notice. Strong words, few deeds. Tell me what a friend should be. Go again, roll the dice. Show me where my heart should be. Never mind if we see the day. When it comes, it surely waits. Won't lies in the wound, is it too late? Lift the cup, lift the plate. If you don't mind, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, if you don't mind. Big wounds and your short lies. Don't mind me while I'm saying goodnight, but you can't tell what comes out of my mouth. Was it reason pearls or was it turpentine? But you don't mind, 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 but you don't mind. Don't mind. Ça c'est the end. Merci beaucoup pour listening. Oh no, you're too kind. You're too kind. What took you so long? I do have to note about that applause. That applause is from one of my own shows. So when those people are clapping, they really are clapping for me. It's just like more and more delayed every time it happens. You've been the best. I'll be back here next week. Subscribe if you haven't already, because then you'll know about it when it's happening again. Thanks so much for Nathanael. Go and check out his music, and I'll see you next week.